everyone's thinking about this. And it feels to me like we got to help our people think and behave like disciples through this. Like this is every single day on their news feed, their phones, their conversations at the water cooler. Everything is like, how in the world do we get through that?
You have been one of those guys that's a voice for a lot of pastors, a lot of leaders. And I wanted to get you on the show, and I've been wanting to do this for actually years because I just love hanging out with you at the times that we get to do it, and love talking football and ministry and life. But with this upcoming season of the political nature of what we're getting ready to walk through, here we go, part 2. And last time went so well. People were just thrilled with their choices and how things turned out. So I guess what I'd love to hear from you is there's a lot of churches out there trying to figure out, are we supposed to kind of, put our stake in the ground at some point? I mean, what's the balance between being the voice for our culture and community versus, this Christian nationalism thing that we all fear? And well, you're right up there, near where a lot of the decisions are made and a lot of the power brokers are. How have you in this politically charged season decided to navigate things and maybe said, okay, we did this in 2020 and we're not going to do that again, or we are going to do this again? Just give us some of the original thinking or thought process that you guys have been wrestling with all this.
Yeah, man, anyone who's, everyone, like you say, everyone feels something still in their spirit from 2020 where, wow, that conversation went bad in a hurry, or we had a big thing in a small group at our church, or the minister said this or that, and you said it's this is the second time around. In a way, it's kind of the third. It feels like it's been getting worse, doesn't it? Like 2016 was no cakewalk, and 2020 we just saw a new level of animosity. I think everyone feels it, the polarization and the difficulty. The like you can't even make a joke anymore without really, it's kind of a everyone's easily offended, and anger is high. Everyone's politicked off, as it were. And so we've, I think as you look at different church approaches, some are just going hard on it, let's just go. And and you can draw a crowd that way around, like, we've got to talk about a particular almost partisan perspective on this because that's our best chance to save, the name of God in our country. And, I think we all feel like a heightened sense of urgency, and some are just going that way. Some I think are going the opposite way, just like I ain't touching this thing with a 10-foot pole. And so if your question was what we're doing, we're going to try to do what we did in 2020, which is be as clear as we can about who we are, why we're here, and help people understand that we're not a church that's going to jump into the fray and lead with a bunch of political stuff on either side, and that everybody's truly welcome here. We've got a big mission here, and that's in a nutshell kind of what we're trying to do. I feel like there's a lot at stake, Rusty. I feel like just the name of Jesus is hugely in jeopardy in a way because of the way how the church handles this in this season seems really, really important to me. So we're pretty
with that in mind.
Yeah.
With that in mind, let me just ask this: Are you recommending that churches talk about it, or because I know some churches are like, I'm not even going to bring it up, because it's such a political landmine field. So are you feeling like, man, we've got to address this, or should you be a little bit more subversive, or is it kind of doing the ground game and working with small groups first, or, what's the tension there you're feeling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's all the above, and I think it really is a case by case based on the style and the leadership gifts of each kind of ministry situation. I think there's a strong case to be made for, like, some of the best culture shifts and changes you make in your church kind of don't always happen up front, and aren't always stage announcements or sermons preached, but are just kind of the slow trickle of good leadership over a long period of time through intentional, like, studies and groups with certain leaders that you wrinkle out. I think that's valid, and For us, we've taken, we want to do all those things, but I think I never want to miss an opportunity to kind of just name what's going on, the elephant in the room, if you will. Everyone's thinking about this. And it feels to me like we got to help our people think and behave like disciples through this. Like this is every single day on their news feed, their phones, their conversations at the water cooler, everything is like, how in the world do we get through that? And it so happens that I think being a disciple of Jesus has a lot to inform about how we respond. So for us, we want to be right up front with it. We want to kind of lead with, here's how we as a church are going to handle it. Here's how we believe that every disciple ought to navigate it, kind of corporate and individual, and just lay some stuff out. You know, during 2020, we're out here on the East Coast. We were still meeting out in the parking lot, and we did a series that, you know, some of our friends did. I stole the title and kind of wrote some of our own stuff on it, but it was called The Separation of Church and Hate, you know, and kind of that catchy title because but we just went right through some stuff in 2020, and I was really affirmed in what I'm describing to you as our approach. Like, people were deeply appreciative. Like, even if they didn't like everything that was said, it was like, okay, now I know why he's not saying all the stuff I want him to say, or now I know why we're handling the election this way. So for us, it is that ground game, and I think there's a lot that can be done, you know, behind the scenes and in subtle ways, and just people do notice what you do and don't do, but we'd like to be straight on it. I advocate, like, preach a sermon series on this, lay out your cards, or, you know, for years I used to preach every election year, every 4 years, I'd preach the same kind of sermon. It was called, "Let Me Tell You How You Should Vote." You know, I'd come out with a bulletproof vest I'd borrow from some cop or something, you know, as a ha-ha, you know, although I thought, well, it's mostly a funny bit, but it might not hurt to have this on today. But of course, I didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, more and more appropriate.